Satan. God, it feels good to say that. My satanic Tourette's after meeting Neil has taken an epic hit. I used to love talking about the satanic world, exposing it, illuminating the Red Devil's deceit and all its rituals. But now we know something more, something deeper. Are you ready to deep dive with me? A Dark Matters deep dive indeed. Don't get me wrong, satanic activity and ritual abuse are most definitely a thing, but it isn't the full picture. So much so, even the elites, I think, have perhaps forgotten most of it. Maybe they are watching this show right now to remind themselves, selves, elves, elven, know thyself, elf. Anyway, back to it. So things are yet again not as they seem. The true history of this land and what we call the inverted Vaticanized timeline, intricately connected by a web of lies, inversions, subversions, perversions, and sleight of hand. Don't look here, look there. Well, as we truly connect the dots, we can see things as they truly are. We can cleanse the doors of our perception. Seriously. Sirius, not Satan, is the energy that they are worshipping. And Neil Bentley joins us again to tell us why. Let's have it, as we say up north. So buckle up, everyone, and welcome back, Neil. Let's go upset a lot of people. How are you doing, Neil?
Well, you know, when we first started talking, I said you dragged me out of a corner of the field and I've been there all by myself. I've been there all by myself, mainly because of this reason. um, Most people's education goes up to a certain point. And then once they reach that point, then they consider themselves as being educated. They know the subject. They are then therefore awoke, woke, and can then make videos and make content and all the rest of it on what they see out in the world without actually knowing that they are still asleep. Every single one of them are still asleep. So we'll start with explaining why there is two timelines. The better explanation is in the rest of my videos, but I've got to skip or redo some of these things for anyone that's just watching for the first time. So basically, just a quickie. Christianity, the Bible, was stolen from Britain by the Tuatha De Dan and the tribe of Dan. It was taken to Rome. They plagiarized it, rewrote it, put it back out as Roman Christianity, and basically created a circus, a pantomime out in the Middle East, and then programmed everybody with these trigger words, these trigger sigils, that every time you think or see one of these words, the picture is automatically straight out into the Middle East. So if someone throws the words Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Israel, any of those words at you, automatically your mind is straight out into the Middle East. Same with a swastika. If you see a swastika, the swastika is actually the black sun, which is Sirius. But with 99.999% of people, they see a swastika, and the automatic triggering of that sigil is the Aryan race, Hitler, Nazism, etc., etc. But those are that's the pantomime, that's the Disneyland that you're living in. So let's start with taking a sledgehammer to basically the cornerstones of one of their greatest belief systems, Satan and 666. So if you don't mind, let's see where we go. Right, we've got that one. Right, so the mainstream story of Satan, you see Satan, you see 666, you see the horns, you see Lucifer. It's devil, it's Satanism, it's Luciferianism, whatever your favorite trigger word is. That's what it is. It's evil people doing evil things and sacrificing things and drinking blood to some evil red dude deity. We have triggers like the Baphomet. Everyone knows the Baphomet. We have the Baphomet and the Pentagon. We have that number. And again, back to that. So all those sigils, all those are just triggers. So I put any one of those things up, and you're automatically thinking Satanism, the Church of Satan, Luciferianism, whatever. So again, more social triggers. And
Hmm.
for the awoke, when you see your favourite stars doing this,
You woke. I like that.
you woke. You've taken the pill
Oh,
and you awoke, and you can see what is going on. And again, we have
yeah.
a few more. What's favourite? The Illuminati, the One Eye, the 666. And if you see your favourite star pulling one of these, then he sold his soul to the devil. He sold his soul to Satan for riches and rags and all the rest of it. Okay, so let's step outside of the circus a minute. Let's just close. It's half time at the pantomime. Let's just step outside and let's have a look at some other options of Satan. So, Satan in the Bible. Now, the story of Satan in the Bible is that Satan comes to Earth and he has to fight Archangel Michael. Michael has to defeat him and send him away to save the Earth, is the basic rough story. Now, in astrotheology, if you've seen any of the other videos, then Satan is actually Sirius, and Archangel Michael is actually the sun. So the sun and Sirius are binary partners. They're in a binary orbit. Sirius is 27 times hotter than our sun. This is a 24,000 year cycle. So every time our sun and Sirius come back together, this part in the middle of the Vesica Pisces, with Sirius being so much stronger than the sun, it causes a lot of damage. It sterilizes the planet, unless you went to live underground. So
Mhm.
Satan comes back to sterilize the planet as such. So he has to go have a battle with the sun. The sun has to send him away again, and off they go round for the next 24,000 year cycle. So that is how the story of Satan and Michael end up in the Bible with doing this battle every 24,000 years. That is the basis in astrotheology about this battle between Michael and Satan, because Satan is the star Sirius. So, so let's have a look at the word Satan. Now, because the Bible and Christianity were stolen from Britain, all the stories in the Bible are stolen from Britain. The Hebrews come from Britain, which means that the ancient Hebrew language and the ancient Irish language are the same language. So if you're seeing something translating in ancient Irish and or ancient Hebrew, they're both coming from Ireland. So let's take a look at translating the word Satan using ancient Hebrew. So the word say, S-A, means the. It always means the, because there's so many words that begin with SA. And as soon as you see a word beginning with SA, Saturn, for example, you can drop the the SA, because that means the. So what's the word left on Satan is tan. So we've got the tan. And if we then translate tan using ancient Hebrew, we come up with the word jackal. So say tan, translated in ancient Hebrew or ancient Irish, means the jackal. So let's have a look at the word tan. We regularly hear of Satan. We occasionally hear of Satan being a jackal, but we regularly hear of Satan being a serpent. The serpent in the Garden of Eden. Oh, it's Satan. Satan is a serpent. Satan, it's etc. etc. So, is that correct, or is that a mistranslation? Again, another mistranslation. So here we have the jackal. we've already established that the jackal Satan is Sirius. So if we go and look at Egypt, the jackal Satan Sirius is facing east because Sirius rises in the east on the morning of 4th of July, starting the beginning of the harvesting season. So Sirius is stupidly important in Egypt and the occult because it is also called the Eastern Star and the Morning Star, their god. So the Eastern Star, the Morning Star, the Jackal, Satan are all related to Sirius. So then we come to the word tan and jackal. Let's start having a look at that. How did that mistranslation, how did Satan become related to the word, to a serpent? So the word tan is jackal. The word tanim means jackals. That's the plural, tanim. But then we come to the mistranslation because tanin means serpent or dragon. So this is where we get the connection or mistranslation between jackal the serpent, jackal Satan, and Satan the serpent. It's just simply a mistranslation of tanim, which is jackal, and tanin, which is serpent. So Satan is never the serpent. The serpent is all to do with dragons.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, you were asking me about the white rabbit. Well, when I was doing some research digging up the word tannin and tannin of this mistranslation, it seems like the chemical picture of tannins is a white rabbit.
Same with
or could
adrenochrome, they
be,
say, don't they?
or could be seen.
Adrenochrome is the
Yeah,
same chemical composition of the shape of a rabbit
yeah. I
as
mean,
well.
up to about last week, I'd have always said the adrenochrome was the white rabbit until I
Yeah,
found tannin, which looks
right.
like a white
Okay.
rabbit, possibly. But that was just one. That's just an extra I found. Tannin and tannin is jackals and serpents. That's where the mistranslation comes in. Now we
Yeah.
have the interesting one because tannin is mentioned several times in the Bible, and that means serpent or dragon. Now, the word dinosaur was only actually invented in 1841 by a chap called Sir Richard Owen. The word dinosaur before that didn't exist. It was serpent and dragon. So,
Yes, sir.
well, I don't. Do you know about the researcher that was doing some work on the dinosaur bones? Who she had a really small bone, which was supposed to be something like 200 million years old, and it was caked in mud. Um, and then she put it in she diluted some acid down to break this mud off the bone. And then she forgot about it, went home for the weekend. When she came back, she found out that the acid had basically corroded the entire bone. It was just gone to nothing. But what was left in the petri dish were blood vessels. This is like a 100 million-year-old bone, apparently. So she's scratching her head going, there shouldn't be blood vessels in a 100 million-year-old dinosaur fossil. So
Mm.
she had these blood vessels carbon dated, and it came back to somewhere between 30 and 40,000 years, not anywhere near 100 million years. So that kind of
Yeah.
throws a spanner in how, firstly, they date everything, and second, how we keep coming across these ancient megalithic carvings of dinosaurs interacting with man. Because if you actually go off the carbon dating and believe that, the dinosaurs aren't more than a few tens of thousands of years old. And this Göbekli Tepe, 15,000 years old, or so they claim. It could be a lot older.
Yeah.
More dinosaurs at Göbekli Tepe. I think these are at Peru.
Yeah.
Right. So we carry on with the word Satan. So as we know that um, Christianity in the Bible comes from Ireland. The word Satan comes from Ireland. So we have one of the most famous demigods in Ireland, Cuchulainn. Now, I think the name Cuchulainn was actually his name because Cuchulainn shows up in with the Mayans and the Aztecs, and there is a connection there between Cuchulainn and Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, because Quetzalcoatl then became Cuchulainn, the European red-haired, blonde-haired, blue-eyed god that came and gave us all this advanced knowledge. His name was Cuchulainn, and he just happened to come from Ireland. And we have an
Yeah.
Irish demigod in Ireland called Cuchulainn. So, as I say, Cuchulainn, he shows up in South America. Now, his nickname is Satanta. Satan. Satan. So that's where the actual word comes from. Now, Satanta, his nickname is Satanta the Hound, because in Irish law, he killed someone's guard dog and then he stood guard over the house until he could replace the guard dog. So his nickname became the Hound, Satanta the Hound. But then if you then go back to astrotheology, Satanta is Sirius, Sirius the dog star, Satanta the Hound. So you also have a connection with Sirius, as above, so below. So that's where the word Satan was actually taken from. And we can also back that up because once you understand that the Bible comes from Britain and Ireland, so all the characters come from Britain and Ireland, all the place names come from Britain and Ireland. So again, these triggered responses, it's easy to say, oh, Satanta, he came from Ireland. And most people's head will explode and say, oh, no, he didn't. So Satanta's dad is Lou. Satanta, Cuchulainn, was Lou's son. And Lou is, another name for Lou is Lou the light bearer. Lou also meaning light, as in luminescent. So the way I read this is Lou cipher, Lou in cipher, Lou encoded, Lou cipher. Because if you watch The Matrix,
Oh yeah.
one of the characters
Cypher.
one of the characters in The Matrix who stabbed everyone in the back and went everyone against each other was called Cypher. So you could there is actually quite a lot of research on the internet of this connecting Cypher of the Matrix to Lucifer. But that's also how you also get the name from Lou Cypher.
Wow.
And if that's not enough, then we'll take it one step further because Lou's dad is called Cain, as in the Canaanite bloodline. Well, his actually name was Cian, Cian, when they just flipped that to Cain, Cain and Cian. So what was the story in the Bible about Cain? Cain and Abel, Cain's brother. Cain murdered his brother in a fit of jealous in a jealous rage. Well, Cain's brother got murdered Cian's brother got murdered in a fit of rage, in a jealous rage. But it wasn't Cian that murdered him. It was his dad, Dian Kecht, because Dian managed to make, when in the first Battle of Moitura, Nuada lost his arm. Dian Kecht managed to make him a replacement silver arm that was fully working, because Nuada was the king of the Tuatha De Danann, but then he had a disability. He had to step down as being king. You know, I was saying they can be king for 40 years, but if they get a disability or an imperfection, then they have to step down. Well, Nuada stepped down after being given this silver arm because he was disabled. Then his son, Malik, came along, but he was an even better surgeon, and he managed to make Nuada a real arm that worked. But because his son had come up with a better answer and it embarrassed his dad, Dian killed his son. out of a fit of jealous rage. So
Yeah.
that's the story between of Cain and Abel dying from being murdered, etc., etc. So this family who are, or this group of people who are probably the most important group of people ever to come out of Ireland, these are these are the tribe of Dan that then went to Rome and stole, and they're still in charge today. So that's basically the family line of some of the characters. But we're specifically interested in today is Satan and Setanta the Hound, and that was all taken from Cuchulainn.
Wow.
There we go, Cuchulainn and his hounds. Right.
Nice.
So, as we now know that Satan is Sirius, let's have a look at where we find Satan or Sirius in the occult. The
Mhm.
tarot cards. Now, apparently, when the Tuatha De Danann landed in Ireland, they carried with them 4 magical items, which I believe the tarot cards and the normal playing cards, the 4 suits of the normal playing cards, they are based on these 4 magical items that the Tuatha De Danann landed in Ireland with. So when we look at the Fool, is this one the Fool? Or is that the
Yep.
one hanging from the tree? I think this one's, yeah, oh, there it says at the bottom, the Fool. Now, the belt that you see he's wearing, that is Orion's belt. Normally there's only three studs on there. There should only be 3 studs, but that represents Orion's belt, because this little dog that's following him along is Sirius.
Yeah.
So that's where we have Sirius and Satan showing up in the tarot. Um, one of my favourites. Well, again, everyone sees this. It's the all-seeing guy. It's Satan. It's Lucifer. It's whatever. It's something that they worship. Yes, but the connection between Satan and the Eye of Providence is, again, Sirius, because Satan and the Eye of Providence are just 2 names for Sirius. And it's the eye behind the pyramid, because, I think I just said, Sirius rises on the 4th of July on the morning in the east, which marks the start of their harvest season, which was a really important time for Egypt. And it's also where Sirius gets all its fertility aspects of Ishtar, Mother Mary, Diana, Venus. Sirius gets these fertility names because of this rising on the 4th of July. So the Eye of Providence, the Eye of Horus, the All-Seeing Eye, they're all just names for Sirius. And just to take it one little step further, where you see these light rays going around the eye, that is the energy, the light, the subtle energies, the ethereal energies. This is the energy that they worship. This is the summary of the word sun worship, because sun worship is only an emblem of the energy. It's the energy that they worship. It's the energy. Where
Yeah.
they say, I worship Satan, I worship Lucifer, I worship the it's this energy, because it's Sirius that controls the rising and the falling of the veils, the rising and the falling of the energetic levels, how much we can use them. And as I've already explained, we've just gone past the furthest point away. So the energetic levels at the moment are as the lowest they ever have been. But they
Yeah.
know this exists, and this is the energy that they call sun worship, the light, and the actual light itself is Sirius or Satan. So if you're seeing this and seeing Satan, if you just simply need to put the word Sirius in there, you'd understand it all without just simply regurgitating a few words and not really having a full understanding of the words that you're saying.
Mhm.
Here we go. The all-seeing eye, the square and compass. This is for another video, but the square and compass, again, was plagiarized by Albert Pike and was taken from the Picts. That was plagiarized from something called the crescent and the broken V rod, it's called, if you want to look it up. that was taken from the Picts, and the Picts' main area of living was all around Rosslyn Chapel. You could take the area of the Picts, and Rosslyn Chapel would be right in the area in the centre of where all the Picts lived. So I can only presume that that's where Albert Pike pinched the. There we go. Right. So on to the next picture. This is the Eastern Star. As I said, if you're talking about the occult, if you're talking about masonry, everywhere in the occult, masonry, whatever, they always talk about the Eastern Star. We've got the lodges of the Eastern Star. They worship the Eastern Star. Well, the Eastern Star is Sirius because it rises in the east, and it's the morning star because it rises in the morning.
Yeah.
So there we are, and we also have the pentagram, which I think we went into in the last video, but this is the pentagram. So an explanation of the pentagram. Everyone sees the five-pointed star, automatic conclusion, it's something to do with Satan. It's something to do with whatever. So the Sira people have a five-pointed star, which is called the Unir star. Yllnir. It's called the Unir star of the Sira people. And the Unir star of the Sira people represents Sirius. That's it. But as Sirius is Satan, this is also when we get the connection between the five-pointed star and Satan. All you have to do is put the word in Sirius in there and just go, they're both names for Sirius. That's all they are. It adds that clarification. It takes you on to that next step of just simply being stopped and saying, oh, I've seen a five-pointed star that represents Satan. Well, correct. Yes, it does. But Satan represents Sirius and the five-pointed star represents Sirius. So they all just represent Sirius. It's not some big red ugly dude. There we go. And just a reminder of what a pentagon looks like. Now, I would say the Unir star is found with the Sira people in Central Africa. This is Sopdet from Egypt, who also has a five-pointed star above her head. And for all those that know, Sopdet represents Sirius. So we have more connections between the five-pointed star and Sirius. And this is the confusion between that and Satan. This is a good one because she has a twin tower above her head. Now, at some point, I need to do a video of all the iconography that you will find in everything to do with 9/11. You'll see Sirius everywhere in 9/11. And really weirdly, this bull at the bottom is called Mehet Weret. Now, Mehet Weret represents the Great Flood. So also the five-pointed star between its horns. So Sirius caused the Great Flood. You'll also find all this story at Brunner because Brunner in Ireland, where Newgrange is, the words Brunner actually translate to womb of the white cow. And if you break down the shape of the Boyne going around Newgrange, it's exactly the same shape as the Nile going around the Giza pyramids, and it all represents the Great Flood. So Syria, this is kind of a pictorial version of how Sirius brings about the Great Flood, how Sirius is connected to the Great Flood. Again, Sopdet and the five-pointed star. Do we recognise this chap?
Anton LaVey.
Correct. Hit it in one. And what did Anton LaVey do?
He was the head of the Satanic Church, if I'm correct.
Correct. The Church of Satan. He set up
Satan.
The Church of Satan. Anton LaVey set up. He created the Church of Satan. So again, the number of times I've heard these as trigger words. They see a character like this, and everyone's talking about the Church of Satan and Satan worship, blah blah blah. Well, let's have a look at this story a bit closer because when Anton LaVey created the Church of Satan, the whole Satanism, Luciferianism, flower power, occultism was really getting interested. It was really taking off. Everyone was interested in it. Now, when you were talking to Joey and you were talking about
Mhm.
changing 10% of a religion to make it something new for patent when they were talking about patents. Well, Anton LaVey wanted to create a cult. And he wanted to be famous, and he wanted everyone to follow him, and wanted everyone to worship him, and he wanted to have sex with thousands of women, etc., etc. So what he did was he looked around at some of the most scary things possible and went, let's make a church of Satan, let's upset really everybody, let's use the pentagram, let's use the Baphomets, let's use pictures of Satan, plenty of red and black in there, and we've created a cult. And then we'll get it into as many newspapers and news channels as possible to really upset everybody. Because I think, was it Orson Welles who said the only thing worse than no attention, the only thing worse than bad attention is no attention.
It
So
was
basically,
Oscar, I
right,
think.
the only thing
Yeah,
worse, the only thing worse
I'd
than bad
rather be talked about than the only thing worse than not than being talked about is not being
is
talked
not being
about.
talked about. So basically, what he did is his principle was if I just go and piss off a million people, if 1% of those million people are actually interested, then he's got his following, which is all he wanted to do. He just wanted to create attention. He wanted to create newspaper articles. And if you go back to when he actually created this, there were court cases, there were newspaper headlines, all sorts went on. All
And
this
that's
was
what
just,
makes it real, isn't it, Neil? Really, like the followers of it. Like I say, we're not saying that it doesn't exist and that it doesn't go on and really dark things in Satan's name, but like I say, it's a fiction ultimately
yeah,
in itself. Not saying that it doesn't go on before everyone kicks off, but it's
no, it
in
does go on.
people's consciousness, so therefore it is, like in that sense.
But if you want to study it of who they're actually worshipping, you need to go and study the archons and the names of the archons and Gnosticism. That is where the answers to who they're worshipping and what they're worshipping. These we're still this is pantomime area. We're still in the circus because the Church of Satan took off and nailed itself into public consciousness. So even
Mm.
today, everybody's talking about it. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows all the sigils. Everybody knows the story of the Church of Satan and the cult, etc., etc. The problem is that after he died, his daughter came out and said, "Do you know something? Anson didn't actually know anything about the occult. He'd never, up to him creating the Church of Satan, he had never had anything to do with the occult. He hadn't got a clue who Satan was, what Satan is. He had nothing to do with any of that, but he just wanted to create a scary sounding cult. So he used all these trigger words and these trigger sigils, created this cult so that he hadn't got a clue what it was about, and we're still talking about the Church of Satan today and it being a real thing. It isn't.
Yeah.
It never was. It was just a ride in the ferry in the playground. That's all it was. 666. That
The
number.
number of the beast.
I made
One of
a.
my favorite Megadeth songs. You're going to ruin this for everyone, aren't you? Particularly me now. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh, this works very well in the circus. This is a circus ride that you are currently looking on. This is the advertisement for the circus ride. The only question is do you want to step outside the circus ride and just have a look at what 666 actually means, or are you quite happy in the pantomime seeing 666?
Mhm.
So I heard years and years ago that 666 was a mistranslation and there were questions behind it. If you go and look at the King James Bible, which everyone seems to do, I don't know why, because it was written by a Freemason. It was only written 400 years ago. But 666 in the King James basically says 666 is the number of the beast, which is the part that everybody says. But they forget to add the other bit at the end to read the entire passage, because the entire passage says 666 is the number of the beast and the number of man. That's what the entire passage says. So are the two characters here? Is the beast and the man? Is 666 a number for Satan and man, or is man 666? Because if you go and look at other versions of the Book of Revelations, it basically says 666 is the number of the beast. Man. Man is the beast. Not
Yeah.
Satan, not Lucifer, not the Baphomet. 666 is the number of man. So then we need to take a closer look at 666 itself. Now, that was written into the King James Version in 1611. All through the period for the last 400 years, every occultist, everyone who wants to promote anything scary, all uses 666. Let's say 666, the number of the beast. Great record. Danton LaVey used it, Crowley used it, everybody's used it. So it basically got welded into the mindset of society that 666 is the number of the beast. So imagine their embarrassment when in, was it 1947, 1948, when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, the Dead Sea Scrolls has a book of Revelations in it, and this is approximately 2,000 years old. So it's about 1,500 years older than the King James Version. Now, in the King James, there we go. In the, in fact, I'll skip on two from there because we'll go to here. In the Book of Revelations from the Dead Sea Scrolls, and now it turns out from many other texts, that this number 666 is a mistranslation. That the number is X1C, which is this figure. You see this X and P symbol in the middle underneath. That is actually 666. That is 616. This is the XLC. So the translators actually read that as XLC, which is 666. X being 600. This is in Hebrew, by the way, not Roman. In Hebrew, X is 600, L is 60, and C is 6. So this is how they wrote the 666. But if you look at that little scrap of paper in the middle, or if you go and look at the Dead Sea Scrolls at the Book of Revelations, the number itself is actually XIC. It's not XLC, it's XIC, and I is 10. So you have X is 600, I is 10, C is 6. So that's where you get the 616 from. Now, if you look at these passages from the Bible explaining, is it on this one? Yeah, there we go. Everyone was talking about 666 having the number of the beast on the forehead or on the wrist, and everyone was talking about these chip implantations of having 666 in the right hand, etc. But if you actually read the passage itself, it actually says that man, us, the beast, we have 616 on our foreheads or right hands. We are the beast because we are the hybrids. We are what's left of the Nephilim as such. So we are the beast with 23 chromosomes.
Yep.
And this, I'll just zoom in on this symbol on the bottom left hand picture. We've all seen that in the occult, and never, everyone's seen people doing that. Well, that is basically the number of man. 616, the number of man, not 666, the number of the beast. I mean, it actually tells you. I mean, you could take it even further, because why did they use 666? Is it a mistranslation? But if you take out the word the beast out of the King James Version and just leave in 666 is the number of man, we know that the carbon atom is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons.
I was going to say that,
But
yeah.
if you just simply written in the King James Version, 666 is the number of man, and everyone's suddenly today going, hold on, that's a carbon atom. So what you've actually said there is that in 1611, you knew the atomic structure of carbon. It might take your history books and throw them out of the window, because if you just left that in, then people have worked it out. But I'm not totally sure whether that's a red herring. I definitely know that 666 is a mistranslation from 616, and 616 is the number of man.
Yeah.
So
And didn't you
that's
say, Neil, that it's the number of president, Emperor Nero? Was
yes,
linked to
it
six
six. Well, both 666
and
and
five?
616 in gematria both break down to Nero. Um,
Right.
Now, the one behind that is that Emperor Nero was the first emperor to persecute the Jews. So he was called the Beast, which is why in the Bible it got written down as 616 is the Beast, because 616 is Emperor Nero. So basically, what they've said is Emperor Nero is the Beast because he was
Yeah.
persecuting the Jews.
Which were the U's as we're learning,
Which were the use. I try to
the
I try not to.
worshippers
I want
of the
to. In
beast.
fact, I'm stopping myself from saying use now to
Yeah.
deliberately
Because
use
I
the
want
word
to,
Jew, Jerusalem, because I know that 99% of the people won't have a clue what I'm saying if I just simply say use. Again, it's this deprogramming your mind. I see it, like I say, I see a swastika, and the first thing I'm thinking of is Sirius and the Black Sun. I see the word Satan, and the first thing I'm thinking of is Ireland and Satanta. It's this
yeah, yeah,
deprogramming your mind when I see the word Phoenician. Like I said last night, it was only last night that it suddenly clicked that I was told that it was the Phoenicians that deified Israel into Saturn. And I was more interested in Israel being deified into Saturn. And then it suddenly went, oh, God, it was the Phoenicians that did it, not the Phoenicians, the Irish Phoenicians. So
yeah,
that suddenly opens up a whole new door because you're suddenly taking Israel and Saturn and putting it in Ireland and finding the answers in Ireland. If I just stayed in the Disney version of reality, spelling Phoenicians Phoen, and I heard the word
yeah,
the Phoenicians deified Israel into Saturn, well, that doesn't really mean too much to me because all I'm taking from there is Israel was deified into Saturn.
yeah,
If I then change the spelling of Phoenician into Phoenician, Fin, I can then all of a sudden have another avenue because then I've actually placed it somewhere in Ireland
yeah,
of when the Phoenicians lived. So now we have Israel and Saturn
yeah.
both well and truly placed in Ireland. And all I did was change the word Phoenician to the word Phoenician.
And that runs through the legal system, as we know if you've watched my other videos. So it all links in, the legal system is that Saturnian worship, or they worship the perverse elements of Saturn, which links in obviously to what you've just said. Neil messaged me this yesterday. Neil messages me things and I go in my own head. I just have to sit there for a while like this. And you're doing extremely well with all the pronunciations, I have to say, Neil, because some of those early ones with I can never say Kikotsil, Kikitsil, I can never say that. It's very
Oh,
good. I can't
oh
even pronounce
Picklen and Quetzalcoatl.
my head around it.
Again, I mean, when I first started doing this many years ago, and anyone just stepping foot into this, it is literally like you're stepping foot into an ocean. You're learning, I think I once described it, it was like learning three different languages and learning how to fit a kitchen all at the same time. There's that much information to take in all at once. You just drown. This is why a lot of people don't touch it because they
Yeah,
see how much there is to how much knowledge there is there. Compare that to
yeah,
what they know now, and pretty much you'd have to take away 50% of the 50% of your knowledge and just throw it away in the bin because it's part of the pantomime. And then
yeah,
you turn around and look at the wealth of knowledge that there is in Ireland, Atlantis, Sirius, Britain, and you kind of go, Again, I presume it's the same as people looking at the law. I believe that
yeah.
I once heard somewhere that you would have to study law for 40 years. You would have to read law for 40 years. You could read law for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it would take you 40 years to read all the laws.
Yeah, yeah. It's
How is anybody
that's why it's
supposed how's
yeah,
anybody
it's not
supposed
a
to know?
human system.
Say again, sorry.
It's not a human system in my opinion. It's come from somewhere else. Like, and I always call it a scrying mirror. You can stir into it for as long as you like, and you'll still, it hangs on specific points and quota, but you'll never get through the whole thing. That's not been written. That construct, that system has not been written by human hand or not,
Well,
or hybrid hand, we should say.
that construct,
Maybe.
the construct of the law, since I've been looking at that, which is probably, again, 15, 20 years, I came to the conclusion that, where have you gone? You still there?
Oh, where have I gone? I just knocked my camera. Sorry, that
Oh,
I'm back. She's
back,
back.
back. Um, the only conclusion I came to when I was studying the law was that there's that many laws that can tell you that you're right, and there's that many laws that tell you that you're wrong. It's just that whoever puts the best argument to put forward and whoever knows the law the most intricately, they will win. And
Yeah, yeah. That's it.
it doesn't matter if
Mm.
the clients are innocent or guilty. There is no black and white in the law. It's just whoever can come up with the most complicated arguments that convinces a jury or a judge. There is no right and wrong. It's not like two and two is four. It's so
No.
fluid that every answer is the correct answer in the law. Well, that's the conclusion I came up to it. So it was like if someone who had never studied it kind of looked at a subject that said, I need to study it 24 hours a day for the next 40 years to get a proper
Yeah.
understanding of it, they're just not going to touch it. Which again,
But this is
which
it. There's facts, and the fact a fact is a fact, and you can't argue a fact in law. But then also, yeah, it's adversarial. It's meant to, it's presenting an argument, especially in the legal system as to the lawful. But yeah, you're certainly just presenting an argument. It's meant to. It's all about arguing. Um,
absolutely, in my
the
mind,
only people at the bar.
well, again, in my mind, it was just whoever understood it the best and whoever can put the best argument forward, they'll win.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
I,
and in our system at the moment, which is purely administrative and Roman, they win the end.
oh
There
yeah,
is no
yeah,
true justice, as
we've
we know. But
absolutely no chance. I can go in with all the arguments under the sun. I'll still lose.
yeah, because
Everything.
it's their court, it's their game. Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been stood in a court before now, having a discussion with a magistrate, and she actually turned around in the middle of the case and said to me,
yeah,
"I cannot let you win this case."
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Halfway through the case, she actually told me that she wouldn't let me win the case. I'm like, "What are
Yeah,
we doing
yeah,
here then?"
yeah, yeah. Because they're all private courts, all of them. Unless like we said, unless there's a trial by jury present of 12 of your peers, that is an administrative court. That's a bar court. That's a bank. They're never going to rule against themselves. The
No,
end.
that's it. So the last two parts of this, as everyone in the cult is so keen on saying, as above, so below, we know that
Yeah.
Satan is serious. We know 666 doesn't exist, but where are we going to find? I'll show two examples of where Sirius landed on Earth as below. Sorry, that's going into that's if you want to just have a quick read of that while I explain this one.
Okay.
That's just going into the explanation of the 616 and the 666 and how they managed to get the letters wrong, etc., with the 600, the 60, and the 6. Um, so we're going to have a look while you're reading that at Sirius in America, Satan in America, and Satan in God's country. We'll move on from that one. You can pause it and go back if you want. Oh, this is the Dead Sea Scrolls again with the 616 and the 666, etc., of why they got it wrong. Again, if you want to have a look at it and pause it and go back to it.
And do you think, Neil, obviously we know that 666 is in the Google logo. We know that 666 was, I think it was the road of the lab that, created the coronavirus.
Yeah,
And do you think like you said, do you think they've even forgotten this knowledge? Like I made a quip in the, did I quip? I quipped in my intro about how they've even forgotten and
if you
maybe they're
got
watching
they'll be
our
back to
show, right?
watch. They'll be
So
back to
do you
watch
think
it.
they've just forgotten? And again, it's just another distraction to this 666 to keep you from the real juice of it.
I never really thought about that until I watched that The Last Druid video with Ben, which was recorded. I think it was the late 80s, and he claimed that he was the last druid alive and he came from his
Mm.
secret little cult and they do 20 years of education, and after they finish the 20 years of education they're basically just thrown out into society and they can't make contact again after that, and they have groups of
Yeah.
three of them, and all his contacts had died and he thought he was the only one left in Ireland. So what a
Yeah.
video that is. It's just called The Last Druid. Highly recommended. Halfway
Okay.
through that, he actually said that because there's so few numbers of them, how do they hide in plain sight? How do they hide? How are they not wiped out? And he said that they don't hide themselves. What they do is they hide all their history, they hide who they are, so they can't be recognized anymore. Part of the Jesuits' training is that if you become a Freemason, then you've got to become the best Freemason you can be. If you become a Jew, then you've got to be the best Jew you can be. You've got to be so convincing that you are the best Freemason or Templar or whatever, that have to be accepted as being 100% genuine. And it doesn't matter what you do, you have to be the best Freemason you can be, even though you're a Jesuit. So this is how the Jesuits tend to infiltrate. I know definitely the Jesuits infiltrated Freemasonry, because Freemasonry was first created thousands of years ago in Ireland. It got broken up and then it got recreated in 1717 with a bit of the Irish Freemasonry, some of the Egyptian mystery schools, and some Turkish Sufism. That lot got thrown into the pan together, mixed up, and then got chucked out to the world as Freemasonry. So I just call that modern masonry, because it doesn't actually have that much to do with the original Freemasonry from Ireland. That's just the modern masonry, which again, that is the circus tent. That is the modern masonry is just the pantomime. It's not based on the reality. So anyone studying modern masonry, you're studying a pantomime. You're studying a book that was given to you.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Where did I find you again, Neil? Where did we find each other? I'm just going,
On on
continue.
on Joey's show.
The Joey
Joey's
show. It was our Joey that linked us, wasn't it?
show.
Oh, messing, I do remember.
Right, well,
Wow, yeah.
and here we go. This is one that I found showing Sirius and the 4th of July and rising in the east, etc., and the symbology behind that, which is why Sirius is the eastern star, the morning star, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, Satan in America. We'll just do one example. We'll just do one example of where we find Satan in America. Now, Satan landed well and truly in Washington, D.C. He sat in Washington, D.C. So we have the road layout in Washington, D.C. forming the pentagram. Everybody's seen that. We also have the obelisk.
Which
And
is linked to Osiris, isn't it? I think allegedly the phallic symbol of a.
depends on how far down that. I'm pretty sure the whole tying that is tied to the story of Osiris, because he was cut into, was it 13 parts, and they only recovered
Yeah,
12 of his parts, and the one part that they didn't find is the
came back as
obelisk.
Horus.
I know
Yeah.
that's the story behind the obelisk. Now, whether that's the true story behind the obelisk or whether that's just the pantomime creation of the story behind the obelisk. But so far, we've seen the 5-pointed star, we've got the obelisk, and we've got the dome of the Capitol building.
Yeah.
Now, again, I've seen 20 videos, 50 videos on the layout of Washington, and every single one of these videos will show you all these things, and then give you an explanation at the end that it's something to do with an Egyptian satanic fertility ritual. There's never a proper explanation of what all these things are. It's just always Satan, 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 Satan's in Washington, Pentagon's in Washington, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Then we come across this. It's a glyph, and it's the glyph of Sirius. The Egyptian glyph of Sirius, or Satan, as we now know, is this, where we have the obelisk, we have the pentagon, and we've got the dome. So everyone doing videos of Satan in Washington, D.C., and then proving it with the obelisk, the dome, and the 5-pointed star, but then stopping there and not actually connecting all the dots.
Yeah.
This glyph is the one that connects all the dots, because Sirius is Satan. Hence, therefore,
Yeah.
all the iconography that you see laid out represents Sirius, which is Satan. So
Yeah.
it's everyone kind of stops at Satan, but then can't connect Satan to the obelisk, the dome, and the five-pointed star. They can't connect those two things together
Mm.
because they're the same thing. Sirius. That is the next step that people miss out on. They can sort of get to one level and seeing Satan, etc., but then never take it to the next level. So that is an example of where we see Satan on the ground in Washington, DC. And then brings us to the last one that we're going to do, where we find Satan hanging around in God's garden. God's actual garden, and Satan's hanging around in it. And you know exactly what I'm going to say. Yorkshire, God's country.
Aye, aye, lad.
So let's go and have a look at Yorkshire in God's country. Everyone's heard of the Great Pyramids. Fantastic. Laid out like Orion's belt on the ground. And if you take the center point of the two outside pyramids, they measure 1,000 meters, a kilometer. So let's go and have a look in God's country. Now, God has gone and conveniently also built the Orion's belt. Now, if you take the center of the furthest one and the center of the nearest one and measure that, that's 1.5 kilometers. So it's 50% bigger laid out on the ground than the Great Pyramid.
Mm.
The Great Pyramid is supposed to be built around 5,000 years ago. Thornborough is supposed to be built around 5,500 years ago. Sorry, 5,500 BC. So Thornborough is 500 years older than the Great Pyramid, and it's also 50% bigger. Nice work. So we're studying the as above, so below. And as this topic happens to be about Satan and not Orion's belt, if we were to take a star map and overlay it onto the ground, and if we were to overlay Orion's belt from that star map onto the center of Thornborough Henge, well, as this video is about Satan and Satan in God's country and Sirius, if you were to look up into the sky to see Orion's belt, where would there be anything at the point where Satan is, or Sirius? Because it's just down and left from Orion's belt. So if I overlaid Orion's belt onto that, would there be something just short down and left where Sirius, Satan, will be hanging out?
Mm.
Oh, yes, there is. It's a rather large hill. It's actually quite unmissable. So when I first laid the star map onto the ground, perfectly placed is this thing. It's huge. So obviously your first question is, well, that's going to catch my eye. I was just looking for a little plaque or a little stone or a megalith or something, but yeah, that catches your eye. So the first question is it natural or man-made? And the best way of finding that out is to go and have a look at the LiDAR pictures. That's a LiDAR picture of it. So the question is that man-made or is it natural? I'm kind of figuring that I'm leaning towards man-made. So then I found a different LiDAR program, and we found that. Also the same hill, also through LiDAR. Now, if you're telling me that is natural,
Something's going on there.
that isn't.
It's the devil's nipple, Neil. It's Satan's nipple.
It's definitely Satan, and it's definitely the devil. So what we have here is a place called Hoe Hill.
Hoe Hill.
In Yorkshire. Hoe Hill it's called. Now, Hoe Hill is exactly where Sirius would be if it was laid onto the ground in relation to Thornborough Henge being Orion's belt.
Yeah.
And there it is. We have a picture. I went over and found it, took a lot of pictures. It's a bit unmissable, to say the least. I think when I was doing the work on it, it is exactly the same size as Newgrange. Exactly the same. So anyone that's been to Newgrange can get an appreciation of the size of this thing. It's huge. So is there any other evidence in and around, as above, so below, that this pretty big molehill has something to do with Satan? Well, it's very good of the church to leave us a marker because right next door to Satan, the church have built a church to protect themselves from Satan. Now, if you go back to the start of the video when I was saying that Sirius is Satan, if the big
I know the
hill,
answer to this, Neil, because you taught it me. Such a
the
child,
best,
am I?
you're one of the best apprentices I've ever had. So on the presumption that whole hell is Satan, and we know that Sirius comes back and he's got to do battle with the sun, one guess what the church's name is.
St.
St.
Michael.
Michael's. So they built a church to protect us from Satan, a hill, and we'll call it St. Michael's. And if we're just going to go back a little bit further in history, Downholme, the little village that's next to Hoe Hill, is called Downholme, which right now doesn't mean anything, but it does. So again, we're going to do the breaking down of words thing. Down home. Now the word down means done in Old English, and the word done means hill. Home in Old English means holy. So the word itself, down home, well, there's another village just down the road called Dunholme. Dunholme or Downholme both translate to holy hill. So we've got a pretty great big mound called Satan, so they built a village next to it called Holy Hill.
Wow.
So that concludes Satan, the examination of Satan, not in the pantomime. Stepping foot
Wow.
out of the pantomime, we've walked out of the circus, we've examined where we get the word Satan, how it's drilled into society as these trigger words, trigger icons. And again, if we end up going on with these, I could do hundreds and hundreds of these of taking individual trigger words, trigger symbols, iconography, whatever, and start breaking them down into what they are, where they came from, what are they really used for, and what people's understanding should be. So unless you are a researcher, again, I'm going to upset everybody here, because unless you are a researcher and you see the word 666 or the word Satan or the word Lucifer or Baphomet or the pentagram, unless you see one of those sigils or symbols, and the first thing you think is Sirius or Ireland, and seeing how they relate to Sirius or Ireland or ancient Britain, whatever, if you're seeing the term 666 Satan, whatever, and thinking of that and devil worship and child sacrifice, you're still asleep.
Yeah.
You are still asleep.
I think, yeah.
Because
Go on, sorry.
basically your education is, you've been taken to a certain level, which is still
Mm.
within the Disneyfication of the timeline. So you can make as many videos as you want on 666 being the number of the beast. And I've just seen Lady Gaga pulling 666. I've just seen someone saying, I worship Satan. I mean, I watched one last year. It was a presentation award. And I can't remember who it was, but he walked onto the stage and he went, I worship Satan. Next thing you know, for the next few days, hundreds and hundreds of researchers are all making videos about, it was Robert Downey Jr. Hundreds of videos about Robert Downey Jr. proclaiming his worship to Satan. He's involved with the Church of Satan. He sacrifices children, etc., etc. Right, well, you're still asleep. You're not awake yet, because when he said, I worship Satan, all I heard him say was, I worship Sirius.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly Sirius that they worship, it's the energy produced
Yeah.
by Sirius, which is focused through the sun, which again, I have to go into another video to explain how that all works. But basically, the electromagnetic connection between Sirius and sun is focused through the sun onto the Earth. As Sirius and the sun get closer, the electromagnetic, the levels rise, the veil falls, the ethereal energies rise, and we can start creating magic. Where we are at the moment, we're asleep. We're at the bottom of the bottom. We've got a dried up old grain of rice as a pineal gland, which we can barely use anymore. And we're trying to look back at history and understand it from a completely brainwashed perspective. So this is the
Yeah.
idea between these videos, and this is the idea. This is why I've been sat in the field all by myself for the last 25 years, watching literally everyone going, "Oh, I've just seen Lady Gaga pull 666. She's a satanic devil worshipper." You're still in the program. You're still in the pantomime. You've not even walked out of the pantomime yet to understand what all these things mean.
Yeah.
Um,
And what a theatre it is like, isn't it, Neil, really? I mean, and I always say, it's not about kind of beating ourselves up because if you follow my channel, that's why I was laughing in my intro about my satanic Tourette's. I always used to laugh saying I had satanic Tourette's because I was doing the same thing. And I always say there's misinformation and information, and it is a great backdrop. If I hadn't got to, find Joey through his Saturn video. If I didn't know that, it was my knowledge of that Saturn worship through the, studying the law, and it's all a thread in it. And I always like to say that I hope that's what we kind of do at Dark Matters, pull the proverbial thread. It's like with Lawrence through the interview the other day. I didn't agree with everything he said, but there are some nuggets in there that fit in with the things that I do think, and it's for everyone to make up their own minds. And I can't study this stuff like you have done for the last 25 years, Neil. It's interesting how you say that it's like people, I think, go from woke to I like that I woke. And even awake, as I always say, is a party for the dead. So I think you've even got to get past that. You've got to kind of stop believing in like you say the things that were jazz hands that were presented with. And I think even to a point, I think they have forgotten. But like you say, if we hear Satan, let's hear Sirius. And it's so interesting. Two of my favorite researchers, as people obviously know, are you and Stephen, because your work overlaps in so many amazing ways. And like I say, the soul trap stuff that we do, I find that very interesting. And I think we were talking off camera. We won't die, else we'll kind of digress. And let's keep it kind of quite specific about your ideas on that and how that works. But like you say, they're worshipping this. They, according to Stephen, just to try and tie in a little bit, they are cut off from source, and they obviously they can't get out through the belt of Orion, whereas apparently we can. But we're so dumbed down, like you say, we've been so brainwashed with our little calcified, little pineal glands, etc., and so on.
Brain of
And
Mars.
Stephen's work, like you say, that Egypt, like it was just it was a school of thought coming from the word Egyptos. It didn't kind of they created that, didn't they? They left Ireland and went and created it all over there. So they're
Yep.
saying it all came from over there. And again, the Sphinx was actually, perhaps, the dog head, which is why you get Anubis, like the who kind of walks you through the underworld. And at the underworld, according to Stephen, is Hadrian's Wall, as above, so below, which is the Milky Way. But they can't get out because they're cut off. So they're feeding on that energy of Sirius, aren't they? They're, like you say, they're worshipping the energy because they kind of have to, that's how they survive, apparently.
Well, when I say the energy, everybody can use the energy. There's not that
Mm.
much difference between them and us.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can,
because
we
energy is just
can, we can
energy,
use
isn't
the
it?
energy, but
Yeah.
the difference is that we've been sat inside the circus. We've been sat in the circus tent. We've been sat watching this pantomime going on for so long
Yeah.
without the realization of. I try to explain it. It's like going to school. So if you're just seeing society through blinkered eyes,
Hmm.
if you say that was the primary school level, then if you go to the secondary school level, then you're awake and you've taken the blinkers off and you're seeing people do 666 and you're hearing about the Baphomet and etc., and then you're awake. Now that's all right if that's the level of intelligence or knowledge that you want to go to, but you've also got to realize that you are still asleep. You've not been woken up yet. It's all right being able to spot 666, but do you understand what 666 is? Where did it come from? What does it represent? represent? What does the word Satan come from? What does it represent? But once you start seeing these things, then I'll go back to where at the start where I said sa is the. SA
Yeah.
is the. So we have say tan, split the say is the, tan, which is left. So that is jackal when you then go and translate it. So to translate the word tan using ancient Hebrew and then for it to come up as being jackal, but whoa. I mean, the first time I ever did that and it actually came up as a word, I nearly dropped
Yeah.
through the floor. But then since then we went on to Salem,
Yeah.
Salem, Salem. Instantly, you spot, oh, hold on, that's got an SA at the beginning of it. So that's the. So does
Yeah.
lem translate anything in ancient Irish or ancient Hebrew? So then you go into the translate, you put lem into translate, and all of a sudden, up it pops light. So all of a sudden, Salem is translated into the light. So
Right.
then we take it an extra step. For then I suddenly spotted Salem at the end of Jerusalem. So then you translate J
Okay.
Ru Salem because you already know the end is the light.
Yeah.
So I would go and translate J and Ru, and that means I. J is I, Ru is C. So then J Ru Salem is I see the light. I'm not going to tell you the translation for Saturn. I'm saving that for Joey because I want to watch
I
him
was
drop through. I
gonna,
want to watch
I
him
was
drop through
gonna,
the floor.
it was my next, you read my mind. It was my next question. So we'll leave
When
that
I do
one
when
then
I
because
do
I literally, I
Saturn,
even wrote it down
I want to watch
to,
Joey
to ask you.
literally drop through the floor because everything that he said, again, like most of the things that everybody says, they take
Yeah.
it to secondary school of education, the secondary school of knowledge. Now, whether they hold it there deliberately or accidentally, whether they then start making videos about this circus pantomime level, whether they're
Mhm.
doing it accidentally or deliberately, to be honest, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if they're doing it accidentally or deliberately. It doesn't matter if the Y files are producing videos of the Anunnaki being out in Mesopotamia and he's getting 1 million views and he's got 2 million subscribers, whatever, and he's on £1,000 a video. Great, fantastic. The only problem is that everyone has to realize that when they're watching the Y files, all they're watching is try to understand it's like going into a pleasure beach and you've got all these different rides and they've all got different topics and different subjects within the pleasure beach, but you're still within the pleasure beach. So if you go and start watching the Y files or yeah, I would say archaics, Jason at archaics.
You said it.
I'll start off with the big chance because people know them. Robert Zephyr. Robert Zephyr.
Mm.
There's another huge one that everybody knows.
Yeah, I love Robert
Start
Seffer,
watching
but
those channels.
nowadays I know.
Those channels only cover subjects and only take subjects that are within the circus, that are within the pantomime.
Hmm.
So when the Wi-Fi, I started watching the Wi-Fi's like everybody else when it first started coming out, and then I'm going, hold on a minute, these are never taking it to the next step. So when he's talking about the Anunnaki and Enlil and Planet X and Nibiru, he never mentions Ireland once. He never mentions the sons of Anu once. He never says the sons of Anu were the Tuatha De Danann that landed in Ireland. That step outside of the box, going up to, let's say, university
Hmm.
level, the next step, he never takes that. So whether he's doing it accidentally or deliberately, of promoting this Vatican fabricated timeline, like I said,
Yeah.
that was one of my instant disagreements with Jason at Archaics because he claims he was in prison for about the last 20 years and he read all he did was lock himself in a cage and read book after book after book in prison. Then he came out of prison and started a channel promoting a theory of everything that he'd been reading in prison. The only problem is every book in an American prison has been given the okay by the Vatican and the government. So when I started asking him books, have you read books like um, Irish Wisdom in the Bible and Pyramids by Conor McDowry? Have you read We Are the Scythians? Have you read Britain, the Key to World's History by Collins Beaumont? He'd never even heard of these books because they're banned in American prisons. So he cannot have
Mhm.
read these books. So that his entire theory, his entire channel is based around Rome
Mhm.
being the creation of Christianity. His channel is based around the Bible being literal, the Bible coming from Rome, which is all the Disneyfied timeline. So whether he's
Mhm.
doing that accidentally or deliberately, go out and produce, start a channel just promoting this timeline that the Bible comes from Rome.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter to us whether he's doing it deliberately or accidentally. Once you know that he's promoting, all he is promoting this circus act. It's just an act. I'm still in the pleasure beach. I'm just on a
Mhm.
different ride in the pleasure beach. If I go into arcades, if I go into the Wi-Fi's, if I go into Robert Zephyr, I'm at another ride within the pleasure beach. I've not woken up. I've not taken any pills. I've not woken outside. I've not walked outside to start seeing the true knowledge of all these things. I'm still in the circus. So
Yeah.
again, when we were, I was saying we were breaking down. Well, actually, cat, the letters cat, CA, that also is the.
Mhm.
So I actually spotted one of, well, it was about 6 months ago. Have you heard of Carl Sagan?
Mhm.
Have you heard of Carl
Yep.
Sagan? No, we'll take
Yep.
Sagan. Take the word Sagan.
Sagan. Yep.
Say gan.
Sagan. Mhm.
We know the word say, sa, is
Mhm.
the. So
Yep.
if you were to translate the word gan, say gan,
Yeah.
do you know what the word gan means?
No, I'm on tenterhooks.
The word gan translates to a liar.
I knew you were going to say like I knew, do you know what I nearly said? Because I always have a laugh with my mum this when I go, "You're a little liar." We used to say it when I was little, "You're a little liar," and I was going to say,
Yeah,
"You're a little liar."
yeah, well, you can just
But
say
close.
gan, you little gan. Say gan, and they've
Oh,
completely lost it because gan is translates to liar.
a
So
liar.
Carl say gan could translate to
Right.
the liar.
Wow. If this video doesn't go viral, then I know I'm seriously shadow banned anyway, especially now we're coming onto this material. I was like, yeah, no, like keep her, shut her up. Well, you up. I'm just the hostess, hopefully with some of the hostess, maybe not. But yeah, wow, bloody hell. That one always used to blow my mind that you said in our chats, Ramadan. So the mother of Dan,
That's mother of
Ramadan,
Dan.
the mother of
Yeah,
Dan.
right, Mark Dan.
Because we
Again,
know
it's
everything those religions are just presented to us to box us
a
and
lot of it. I mean,
bully us out a load of Muslims
I
are.
was watching darts a couple of weeks ago, and it surprised me that once you start seeing it, you start seeing it. It is literally like
Yeah.
putting day-live glasses on, and everything just suddenly changing. I'm watching the darts the other week. Um, One of them had a blue five-pointed star on his back, representing Newcastle beer. Well, the blue five-pointed star is Sirius, Saturn, and it's also the Doppler effect of the Blue Dragon. Um, there was the red, white, and blue of the channel. It was Sky Sports, so you had SS, Silver Star Sirius, but it was sponsored by Kazoo. Have you heard that company, Kazoo?
No.
I think they're an insurance company, something like that. They are quite big. It's CAZ.OO, Kazoo. And I think they're an insurance company, but they were sponsored by Kazoo. I didn't say Kazoo because I already know that Ka means the. So
The zoo.
Kazoo means the zoo,
The zoo.
the zoo,
Which is what we all
which is what we're in. The
which
zoo, the
is what
circus
we're in.
act.
Yeah.
Um, and if just taking it a little bit further on the circus one, you're into your rock music, aren't you? Go and watch a video. You've heard of Five Finger Death Punch?
Yes.
Right. Go and
Yeah.
watch a video called "Welcome to
Some
the
fans.
Circus." Welcome to the Circus,
Mm.
Part Two. There's two
Mm.
vids. You can watch the first one, which is just the music vid, but the second one is an actual vid with the music onto it. Go and watch a video
Yeah.
called "Welcome to the Circus, Part Two" by Five Finger Death Punch, and it just is. There's so many truth
Brilliant.
bombs just in that one video that you just like, yeah, you're just laughing by the time you get to the end of it. Plus, it's a great record.
Okay, that's my afternoon. I'll have a toot at that. But like, yeah, it just and everyone's like he's chasing this kind of pseudo spirituality, isn't it, in that clown show and that circus. And like I always say, once you kind of decode or break the cipher or the loose cipher, and then you just it all kind of breaks down, doesn't it? This is just like I say, it's just a huge, it's proper next level stuff, and it's just
It's just being
blows my
prepared to take the glasses off to say,
Mhm.
yes, I have been lied to.
Mm.
Yes, there is more to know than what I know, and being
Yeah,
prepared to say what I was taught. I mean, I spent the first, I don't know, 30 years of my life being fascinated with space and loving the moon landings and all the rest of it because you're so
yeah.
fascinated and you understand it. And then you move on to the next level, which is no, there were no moon landings and it was impossible. Then you go on to the level of, well, hold on, space is 10 to the 16 vacuum of Tor, so even space can't exist. Then you start
Mm.
studying these old Gnostic texts and the oldest religion and belief systems that there are, and every single one of those people say none of it exists and it's all a fabricated hologram.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
what level do you want to go to? Because I can talk
yeah.
to people.
That's
Oh, are you round Earth or are you flat Earther? Well, neither.
there is no spoon.
There is no Earth. So
Exactly. That's
everything.
it,
I was trying to explain this to. It was like one of my mates was saying, "Have you ever played any of these 3D games?
yeah.
You put these goggles on and you're playing a 3D game and you're stepping into a world." So I said, "Well, if you were
Yeah.
playing, let's say, World of Warcraft, so you put the goggles on, and you're inside a world, running around with your gun, shooting people." I said, "Is the world flat or round?" "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, outside of your peripheral vision, in the game, is it flat or round? Is the world flat or round within the game?" "Well, it's not anything because it's outside the peripheral, so it doesn't exist." So what makes you think that anything exists outside your peripheral vision right here in this world right now? Just because you've a few more senses, it's the only place that those are processed is in your brain. So
Yeah, yeah,
what stops
absolutely.
you being plugged in somewhere else and this being a three-dimensional game that you're plugged into, and all you're really doing here is learning stuff in a 3D type laboratory. So
Yeah, yeah,
at what level do you want your education to stop? Because
yeah,
you can
yeah.
stop at sort of basic primary school level that will watch the BBC News and think that everything that they're saying is true, or you can go to secondary school level and start seeing your news presenter suddenly start going like that and going like that, and you've seen it, you know it, you're awake because you can see it. The only problem with you can see it is that you don't understand it. You don't know
Yeah,
what they're doing. Like I said, I keep saying that it's the eye of Providence, the all-seeing eye, the eye of Horus. Anyone doing that in reality is paying homage to Sirius. So that's the next step. And
yeah.
it was so easy to find. I would say once you sort of know the key, I stumbled on this cipher. Like I said, I've done 20 odd years of research, stumbled across a cipher, then went back to book this Irish, I call it the Irish cipher, book this Irish
Mm.
cipher back on everything that I'd seen before, and everything suddenly changed to
Yeah,
holy shit, I can see it now. So it
yeah.
literally was one of those taking your glasses off, but then you've got to then reprogram your brain that all
Mm.
these sigils and these red herrings that have been left literally everywhere. Well, the best explanation, just before we end this,
Mm.
I was listening to a Michael Tsarian interview, and I can't recommend his stuff highly enough. And it's
I know I'm gonna see
Michael
if I can get it.
Tsarian. TS
Mm.
is how you spell
Mm.
it. TS
ARION, isn't it? I think.
Tsarian. So it's Tsarion.
Mm.
I know it
Yeah,
begins with
that's
a
it.
T. If you're looking it up, it begins with a T. But he was
Yeah.
explaining this historical twisted timeline. And he said what basically was what has happened is the information and the knowledge, this ancient information and knowledge that has been um, organized in Britain and then given out to the rest of the world. He said it's that good, it's that pure, it's that
Yeah.
easy to see that when Rome stole Christianity in the Bible and then spent the last 2,000 years going around history, going around every country, going around history, trying to destroy this Irish British history, he said what they did is they put their hand inside a tub of glitter and then they went around the world trying to spack out history and covered everything with glitter, with this Irish glitter. So it's so easy to find that once you understand the key, this is why I call it the Irish cipher, the Irish key. Once you understand the key, this is the cipher and the key that they used to hide history. So once you understand it, it's easier to see. So, like I said, I keep coming back to Satan because it was one of the first ones I saw. Once it was like
Yeah.
once you've learned, once you pass your driving test, the first time you go out in a car by yourself. So I spent a long time doing well, watching the Irish wisdom preserved in the Bible and pyramids, and he starts talking about breaking words down because he goes Atlantis, the great land of knowledge. So once you start learning how they do this compounding of words, and I sort of come out, and the first one I found, it was the first day on my own, and I saw the word Satan, say, tan, the
Yeah.
into translating everything. And initially, when I first started doing it, I was covering every single language. When I did the Voynich manuscript, every word I had to go through, let's say 30, 40, 50 different languages. But the only one that actually came up and made any sense was always Gaelic. But once you've done that several times, and the only time it comes back is Gaelic, you stop doing the other 49 words and you just try the Gaelic. So you try and be as fair as you can. But then when you know that there is only one language that it's going to be, and that's Gaelic, you give up trying for all the rest of them. So I say that's where it will eventually take, if anyone takes this researching up, that's where you end up being, where you can deprogram your mind from seeing these sigils and these programmed words. And as soon as you've seen what the real words are and what they are without the programming, it then opens up a completely different story. Like I was explaining with the Phoenicians, as soon as you see the word Phoenician spelled Fin, your mind's back to Ireland, and that opens up a whole story. I mean, you're quite fluent with this theory now. I mean, when I watched Joey's video on Saturn, he said at the start of that, he didn't know or understand how thousands of years ago they could know there was a hexagram at the North Pole of Saturn. Well, I'll ask you that same question. How, using this theory, thousands of years ago, how did they know there was a hexagram on the North Pole of Saturn? Because thousands of years ago, we were massively more intelligent than we are today.
Yeah.
They'd have had telescopes 10,000 years ago. They'd have known all about. I mean, like I keep saying, we're at the stupidest point we have ever been. If you go back 5,000 years, where we are now, we've forgotten everything. We've literally forgotten everything because everywhere you look throughout history, going back to the Sphinx, which is probably, everyone dates it at sort of 5, 6, 7,000, but I'd probably say the Sphinx is 15,000 because it looks pre-dynastic with all the waterware on it. So given that the Sphinx is Sirius, because it's facing east and it's a dog and blah, 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 they have always been telling us, Sirius. He's absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
But no
And it
one
is, isn't it? Yeah, when you have the eyes to see it, as I say, it's everywhere. Like, wow.
It literally is. But like I say, most people get to the secondary school level and go, that's it, I'm awake. I'm awoke, I've taken the pill, I can see 666, I can see Satan, I can see Lucifer, Baal, Baphomet, etc. And again, we can do series of videos breaking all the deities. I can do hundreds and hundreds of these videos going into different aspects of
Well, And I think you're very humble to say you stumbled across it. Stephen's the same. He's like, I just stumbled across it, and I think I don't know. I think it's years and hours of study and research and connecting dots, and I think we all do
Oh, yeah.
stumble to some degree. But I'm just a little bit in love with you all. Like it just blows my mind every time. I mean, this I think this one's probably been my favorite, especially because I am so willing to. I like I said, I try not to stay static like you said with certain points when you were a flat earther. We all do. We all get to certain points and stay with it. It's not being stuck. It's just, you studying it. They're huge topics of study and they're purposely pushed because of that to try and keep people stuck in these loops and stuck in these rabbit holes, aren't they? But, we are the magi's of our imagination, as I say. So, we,
I,
we,
like-
we kind of keep pushing.
I tend to find there's one of two reasons. Either people get that invested, and I find this a lot with flat earthers, is that they're that invested, they've put that much effort and time into, they know that the earth is flat because they've been studying it for the last 2 years and they've got rounds of paperwork, etc. They know. So they've taken that to a certain level and stopped. Now,
Yeah.
what I found is that there's two reasons why they stop. It's either because they don't know how to take it on to the next level, they don't know how to get out of that rabbit hole and move it on to the next level, or
Oh, yeah, the Y files and
they
a
don't
shitload
they
of money.
don't want to. Well, a lot of people, because they're getting that invested in what they believe. Like I was last week when I was on that site talking to all the Jews, I was having some great conversations. Oh, the site was owned by Jews, and it was in a completely Jewish area of Manchester. So they were like everywhere, and there was probably about 3 or 4 of them that owned this site, and they kept coming round. And they were genuine Jews, so I wanted to talk to them about their religions and how that related into Britain and Ireland, etc. But very quickly in the first conversation, they are that fixated that they are right, and there is no other
Yeah,
answer out there other than they are right.
yeah,
That's where a lot of researchers actually go to, is because they don't want to be proven wrong. This will be actually be a good test to see how many people are prepared to take that next step. Because
yeah,
once they have this
exactly.
put in the face, there's only two responses you can make, and that's either wow, I want to look further into this, I want to take your introductions to the rabbit hole and go and look for this stuff myself, or
Mm.
what for the last 20 years, 87.5% of the population goes, oh, you're an idiot. You're a tin hat conspiracy lunatic. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Those are the two responses. So, like I say, I'm quite happy making hundreds and hundreds of these videos, but I'm not going to make it if there's only one viewer. I'll teach you. You can show me your apprentice.
Yeah. Deal. Awesome. Oh, well, yeah, it's been absolutely mind blending yet again here on the Dark Matters podcast. And yeah, stay tuned. Please do like and share it because it's the juice, if we do say so ourselves. And thanks so much again, Neil. Thanks for taking the time to put that together and to present it to us in such an awesome manner.
You're
Mind
welcome.
blown. Good night. God bless, whatever God you're into, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers, Carly. Thanks for that.
Bye.